Okay, I'm now going to move on to our top 10 under 40 panel. We published our fourth annual top 10 under 40 issue earlier this year, highlighting the accomplishments of young security professionals across Canada. We are delighted to be joined by three of those top 10 professionals today. So I would like to introduce Chris Enquist, Regional Manager at GardaWorld, Kyle Klein, Head of Physical Security at Wealthsimple, and Dane Charbon, Security and Life Safety Manager at Cadillac Fairview. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hey, Neil.
So we'll get rolling with some questions. First one, an easy one. What do you enjoy most about working in your sector of the security business? Kyle, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, for sure. Happy to jump in on this one. I think when I think about my security sector and being financial services and more so a financial technology company, two things I enjoy most about working in the sector within the security industry. I think one is emerging technology. I think a lot of us like to dabble in that when we can. And just coming back from GSX a few weeks ago, it's great to see the new technology that's emerging, new elements that can help our day-to-day work. And I think what I like most about emerging technology is it really helps to make the work we do more efficient. Not that it's replacing protocols or processes, and I think it's there to really be an extension of our team, help make things a little bit more streamlined and efficient, especially where we see some budget cuts and headcount cuts. Technology, I think, is a really exciting one for me. And the other one I'd say is protective intelligence. I've started to get into that a little bit more in my previous role and more so now in financial services, just with a lot of insider threat being a hot topic, working within cryptocurrency, having tools, systems around intelligence allows us to be a lot more proactive and stay ahead of some of those new threats that we're facing. So I'd say when I look at my newest role in financial services in the fintech world, those are two that stick out that really have me enjoying my role.
Great, thank you, Kyle. Dane, what do you enjoy most about your role in the security business?
Yeah, so really it's the complexities of the security industry, and what it does is it ultimately makes every day different and provides a unique yet rewarding challenge. A really good example is the COVID-19 pandemic. Businesses had to pivot with an abundance of need put on the security industry, one to ensure business continuity, but more importantly, just overall safety of the individuals who are there. Coming from a retail environment, that's our clients and our customers and our tenants. Another alternative is as risks change or adapt, so does the industry as a whole. The security industry is fantastic in building competencies which foster future career growth and success, whether it be within the security industry or any other public safety organization.
Thank you, Dane. Chris, same question.
Yeah, sure. So we've heard about technology and innovation and the rate of change. So thanks, guys, for stealing both of my points. But no, for me, it's about mission. I think this is one of the unique fields where we really have a chance to make a real difference in the communities that we live in. The work we are doing ensures that people are able to get home safely to their friends and family. And for me, there's no greater calling than that. So that's what I love about this industry.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, so switching gears a little bit, what benefit do you see in getting involved with industry organizations such as ASIS? I know on this panel there's definitely been some current and past involvement, so maybe Chris, tell us a bit about what you do in terms of volunteering with security associations.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm currently the chapter chair of ASIS Saskatchewan. So I'm leading the security management community for the province that I live in. I also serve on the national board for CEPTED PCAM Canada, which is advancing the professional development of crime prevention through environmental design practitioners. I think the benefits really look different for everyone. If you're the only security leader in your organization, you can find like-minded communities through those associations. If you're stuck in not knowing what to do, you can find best practices and tools in those communities. Or if you're stale and not growing, hopefully that's not too many of us, but you can find mentors and people to challenge you. And then for me personally, I've personally at different times in my career have found all of those things to be true of the communities that we're a part of.
Thank you, Chris. Dane, what do you get out of associations and the types of opportunities that are available to security professionals today.
Yeah, kind of piggybacking off of Chris's point. Seems like we have a lot in common, everyone, on these panels. So it really comes down to collaboration and networking, right? And the ability to be current and potentially even be recruited for another position, right? Or even find individuals if you are recruiting for a position. There's multiple industry organizations within the public safety sector, which does allow for a pretty large industry reach and a diverse perspectives on the risk associated with each pillar. Me coming from retail, there's obviously an abundance of different pillars of security. So being a part of those different types of organizations allows with that reach and diverse perspectives.
Thanks, Dave. Kyle, I know you're pretty well deeply engaged as well in terms of ASAS and young professionals, but can you tell us sort of what you do through those organizations and maybe a bit about how it's benefited you and how you're able to extend those benefits outwards to others in the security industry?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, I'll just put the pitch out there too. I think we're going with next gen these days. I think ASIS is pushing the next gen. So we'll stay on that term. But, started with just sitting on the YP committee for ASIS Toronto, ended up taking on the chair position for that committee, where we really kind of retransformed our approach for like, what are we here to serve for our young professionals or our next generation, or any folks to come out to those events. And we really start to shift. Education events are great, but we want to bring in more tangible events, like a career coach was an example. We had a LinkedIn guru come and really help people restructure their LinkedIn profiles. So a little bit of traditional education too, but really want to arm our new professionals or students or folks looking to transition a bit in the industry to actually walk away from some of our events with some tangible tools in their toolkit. So that's one approach. Also sitting on the ASIS Canada as an ARVP for YP or Next Gens is really then helping the YP leaders and the folks leading some of these groups to help them through some of their challenges. And some of the smaller chapters around Canada, there's a lot of benefits there. They don't have as many resources, they don't have as many events. So we really share, collaborate, and we started to offer national events. So once everyone went virtual, as much as people don't love the virtual events anymore or want to change things up, it created a platform where we can have our young professionals join events from all around Canada. So I think that was a great opportunity. And then finally, I'll just echo some of Dane's comments. And for me, what I love to see is the connections. It's bringing folks out in person. We had our first in-person YP event, I think it was in March, after obviously the COVID break, just to see people out there talking, connecting. We had a hiring manager out there who was able to speak to a couple students for potential roles. Having that forced in-person conversations and being able to make those connections, and whether it's formal mentors or just informal conversations over a drink and some food, seeing those connections, I think that's the true value in folks, not only from a leadership perspective in these associations, but just come out to the events, come out, meet people. And I've seen it firsthand, and we'll continue to do that.
I think there's something just that one final thought here is, I think we're all saying something really interesting here. You get out what you put in. And I think that's a really important thing to make when we're talking about these associations. It's not about checking a box. It's not about just getting a designation or showing up for meetings. That's just consuming content. The real benefit is we have a chance to help others replicate success. And so, Kyle's been giving tons of time and Dane's been giving tons of time because we want to help build those resilient communities elsewhere. And I think, that's the challenge for all of us, right? Is you have to get involved if you want this industry to grow. So yeah, there you go.
For sure. Yeah, thanks, Chris. That's a great point. So maybe switching gears a bit, and this is something that Bob sort of touched on a little bit in terms of like employee-employer relationships and how we view work these days. And a lot of us the last couple of years either working from home or working under extraordinary circumstances that are reevaluating how we approach work. But what are your suggestions these days for maintaining a positive work-life balance, integrating that, the personal with the work life and making sure that you're giving both of those equal amounts of attention? Dane, do you want to kick us off on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. Personally, this is one of the things that struggled with as an upcoming leader within the industry. I was really eager to advance and thought that taking on more responsibilities and tasks, it would help to kind of fast track me to success, or what I believed success was. Unfortunately, this only really blurred the lines between work and personal life, which caused some concerns, not only for my personal life, but also some of the relationships outside of my professional environment. Oftentimes this was balanced based on inner perceptions or my understanding of what busy was or success was. So for me, I was able to take a step back and prioritize my inner expectations. Although it was a challenging exercise, it was a humbling one and allowed me to see the importance of life outside of work.
Thanks, Dave. Kyle?
Yeah, so this is a great question. I think I have some perspective to add on, both a leader and kind of on the work side, but I think routine is really important. We saw this when COVID first happened. A lot of my direct reports had a really tough time switching on to get on to work. A lot of them were rolling out of bed, working in their bedroom because they didn't have their true work set up yet. And I think just creating that routine, get up, one of my direct reports figured out like starting to shower and get dressed and start their day. It really was something physical that started their day. And so I think having that routine, and maybe it's going for a quick run in the middle of the day, like whatever that is for you as an individual, but I think having a routine that allows you to create some of those balances, and even if they mix together, but it's your routine, it's your balance, I think that's what's really healthy and important. Kind of from like an employer and a work side, where we start to see work-life balance being maintained was when we start to have really good systems in place, whether it's on-call systems, redundancies, really starting to trust your colleagues, your leadership team, that, I know I can turn off because, so-and-so's on call. And if they really, really need me, they'll get a hold of me, but I don't have to check in. And so I think there's kind of real two shifts there. Like one is your own personal routines and your own personal balances. The other is on the work side. It's making sure that we as leaders, or we as employers and organizations, are putting the tools, the processes in place to allow our people not only to disconnect, but that they trust that they can disconnect. Because I think that's a real disconnection there, is that we have processes for people to disconnect, but do they trust and do they feel that they can do that? And I think that's really the piece that we need to become successful with, is that trust element.
Yeah, for sure. It's giving people that freedom to feel like they can step away, and whether it's trusting somebody else within their organization, or having, the knowledge that everything that will be okay, and it's all right for them to switch off for a little bit. Chris, so what are your thoughts on this subject?
Yeah, I mean, I'd kind of echo what's been said to a degree, and also offer myself as an example of a cautionary tale. I mean, I think the reality is, I've had mentors tell me you only have a limited amount of reserve in your fuel tank. You only have so much to give, and these jobs can be so all encompassing, and that, the drive to do good work what ends up happening is you burn that down. And I come from a long line of results driven workaholics, and I followed that path. And, at the risk of perhaps being a little vulnerable here, I've spent time in an emergency room because I pushed my body too hard. So you only have so much to give. Don't burn it. And maybe my challenging thought for people paying attention right now is, at the end of the day, you can't take your job or your money with you. All you have to show for the life that you live is the impact you made in the lives of the people around you. So make sure your priorities are straight, and make time for those who ask for help, because who knows, you might be making one of the next top 10 under 40.
Yeah, for sure. So we've talked a little bit, sort of, Chris just alluded to it, but the importance of mentorship and having people in your professional life who can help you and guide you. Somebody be a sounding board, and then likewise you could be a mentor to other people coming into the industry and sort of give back in that capacity. But in the remaining sort of 5 or 10 minutes that we have, maybe we can just talk a little bit about anybody or some examples of mentorship that have helped you in your careers, and maybe sort of if you've been able to sort of pass that along a little bit and help other folks out too as they're coming in. But Kyle, can we just talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of the best mentorship I received was when I was working in the public sector. Some of those environments were, very heavily unionized environments. It really takes a special skill set to have some of those crucial conversations sitting in a room with various different stakeholders. And I think that the mentorship that really helped me in my career development was sitting back and watching some of my mentors and my leaders at the time handle some of those significant incidents and some of those critical union meetings. But what I got out of that was like learning how to have those crucial conversations, learning to be a little bit of a better communicator, learning how to manage some of those moments where there could be injuries, there could be a touchy subject, but we still need to come together. And I look back at my time in the public sector and apply that to all my future roles, and I'd say that that's the most significant mentorship I received. In terms of giving back, I had a pretty big team in my previous role. They still all connect with me, and any opportunity I can to just help, whether it's formal or informal mentorship, sorry, just guiding folks a little bit more. I find some of the informal mentorship has been the most successful.
Right. I'll let you get a drink before I ask you another question. But we talked about the ASCS YPs, or I guess the current nomenclature is Next Gen, but there is a program in place through that organization to help folks with mentorship or connecting with mentors as well, right?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to allude to earlier. With some of those associations, and I can speak to ASIS really well. A lot of people don't realize the resources that come out of that, whether it's through their Connect platform, some of the mentorship opportunities that you can jump into, either being a mentor or mentee. There's so much out there, and I think reach out to me or anybody else involved in ASIS. We can lead folks into the right direction when it comes to mentorship programs. And then I think like at an individual chapter level, there's some opportunities there. I know a lot of the chapters have mentorship programs. We've done student mentorship in Toronto, where we'll help pay for student membership too. I think all those kind of line up with mentorship, both formally and informally. But yeah, with ASIS, there are programs you can apply to get your name on the list.
Great, thanks, Kyle. Chris, maybe some examples of mentorship that have benefited you and how you're able to sort of give folks coming into the industry a leg up too, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I owe everything I have today to the mentors I've been privileged to be under. I mean, really, they opened doors for me. And I mean that in both a literal and a figurative sense. They've introduced me to new people that weren't in my circles, to ideas that I maybe hadn't thought about, or even shifting my mindset a little bit. I got into politics because I had a mentor, a guy named Norm Van Eden Petersman, tell me that, hey, I think you're capable of doing my job. I was like, oh, okay, let's go do that. I studied overseas because I had a mentor tell me that I needed to expand my worldview. And that was a good way to do it. And so, just listening to what's happening. And the great thing about the mentors I've had is that they're mean. They told me the truth. They pointed out some of my bad choices and really focused on my faults, which, we don't like, but it's so important when you're thinking about mentorship. Best piece of advice I ever got was from a guy named Terry Mocker. He said to me, hey, Chris, sometimes I ask you to build me a paper airplane and you build me a freaking fighter jet. And you're really good at building fighter jets, but, sometimes I just want the paper airplane. And I still, to this day, I remember that so vividly, right? So I think in terms of advice for people that are looking for mentors, it's just about getting people to tell you their stories. So you got to think about who you want to be when you retire. Visualize that person, then go on LinkedIn and find someone who looks like that. And hey, here's a little secret. People love talking about themselves. Just reach out to them and be like, hey, you've got a cool job and you've had a cool life. Any chance if we could talk for 30 minutes, you could tell me a little bit of your story and how you got there? So I'd like to be you someday. That's, you're lowering a barrier there. You're starting a relationship, and it takes time. But if you surround yourself with people that think differently than you, that are in different disciplines, I mean, who knows where you'll end up?
Yeah, for sure. Great. Thanks, Chris. Okay, Dane, I'll give you the last word on this. Tell us a bit about how you benefited for mentors or anybody that you've been able to sort of maybe give some advice to new folks coming into the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Frankly, I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have a mentor or multiple mentors and gone through the process of coaching. We really talked a lot about networking and whatnot, but I'm going to kind of touch on some competencies on a more personal level. as I mentioned before, the eagerness and willingness to advance and kind of grow within my career, that was there. So I was already building the fire before there was even a spark. That being said, ultimately, there was minor competencies from time management, communication, and these kind of hard and soft skill sets that I had to grow on. As a young professional, I was very naive and reluctant to take on not criticism, but maybe some feedback where I can definitely advance myself on a more personable level. And those competencies are still things that I stick to this day: time management, communication. Those are the two real main foundations, I believe, to success, or really the secret sauce, if you would. Chris pretty much took every single one of my points for finding an industry mentor. People do love to talk about each other, specifically about themselves. So go on to LinkedIn, reach out to individuals, and also being a part of these ACES types of organizations, networking again, right? Don't assume to be in the position that you want to be in. Start always thinking with that mindset, and great things will come.
All right. Thank you. Perfect. Great summation. So thank you very much, Dane, Chris, and Kyle, for joining us today, sharing your expertise. You guys are 3 of our top 10 under 40, and we're privileged that we're able to reach some young people in the industry and shine a spotlight on their accomplishments. And this program will continue for many years to come. So once again, thank you.